Welcome. Today we're going to look at our next drawing on paper and pencil, which is called the puzzle. You've already got your title block drawn, and we are going to be centering this next drawing onto that title block. For today's lesson, we're going to have a couple of steps. One of them is to find how to center the puzzle within the space we have, and using those numbers from the formula, then to start drawing the puzzle into that title block. So here we go. So as you can see, we are given the appropriate drawing here. On this particular handout, we have the dimensions we're going to need already labeled on the drawing. This particular drawing is not drawn or printed full scale, so we are not going to be able to take and measure a particular line and have it be the same as the dimension. So we're going to have to use the dimensions and not be measuring from the drawing on this handout. In order for us to get moving, we need to figure out some formulas to find out how to center this particular drawing within the title block. I have those formulas listed out here. So if we're looking at a particular handout, we have the drawing, which is the puzzle, going to fit inside of a box like this. This is just an example box for today. And we've got the title block and border, which is going out to these spaces here. The formula we're going to be using is the horizontal gap is equal to the horizontal drawing space minus the horizontal drawing divided by 2. HG is your horizontal gap, which is the distance from the title block to the drawing, and that's what we're going to be solving for in this formula. HDS, horizontal drawing space, is the distance from the border line left to the border line right, and on this size paper that is always going to be 10 inches. HD is going to be the horizontal drawings of the puzzle of this particular drawing itself. So if we look at the puzzle, we can see that it is 7.5 inches long. So HD is going to be 7.5, and as we mentioned, HDS is going to be 10. So we can solve for this distance. And we can do the same for the vertical gap is equal to the vertical drawing space, which is top of title block here to the top of the border, and that's going to be on this size drawing 6.5 inches, always, unless we change the size of paper. Vertical drawing is the height of the puzzle. So if we come over and look at the puzzle itself, it says 5.25 inches. So it's going to be 6.5 minus 5.25 divided by 2. So if we turn over our puzzle drawing and do that quick sketch ourselves so we have our own information. We just drew a simple title block and border to have that on there. This is going to represent the space that the puzzle is going to take up. So if we go HG is equal to HDS minus HD divided by 2. We said HDS is going to be 10. We said HD, according to the handout of the puzzle, is 7.5 divided by 2. We can break that down to 2.5 divided by 2, which means HG is equal to 1.25 inches. And we can do that real briefly with the vertical then. So VG is equal to vertical drawing space minus the vertical drawing divided by 2. Vertical drawing space, as we mentioned, is 6.5 minus the vertical drawing on the puzzle is 5.25. We can break that down to be 1.25 divided by 2, so VG is equal to 0.625 inches, which is also 5/8 of an inch on a fraction for a ruler. And if we come over here, this is going to be 1 1/4 inches on a ruler. So we now know our horizontal and vertical gaps. We're going to be able to turn this back over and start drawing inside of our title block. So from the other day, we have a blank title block and border. And as we just showed, we are going to be centering the puzzle inside of that space. So our horizontal gap with construction lines is going to be 1 1/4 inches. So I'm going to make a mark at the top and the bottom. And I'm going to draw a construction line, which my pencil marks from here on out are going to be construction lines. And then I will use eventually my black felt tip pen for my object lines. It's just easier to show up on the camera here. So that's our first line, and that represents, if we go back to the puzzle, it represents a theoretical line that's sitting like right there. Now that's not perfect because this isn't the right scale, but we just drew a line that's going to represent the left side of the puzzle. We want to find the right side of the puzzle. I do not want to use the horizontal gap over here to find this distance. I want to use the 7 1/2 inches now, because the 7 1/2 inches is going to be more accurate because that represents the object. So now from our gap line, we're going to come over 7.5 at the top, 7.5 at the bottom, and draw another construction line in that space. That's the width of the puzzle. Our vertical gap, as we looked at, is 5/8 of an inch. So I'm going to come from top down. I'm going to make a mark on each side, 5/8 of an inch down. And that's the top of the puzzle. Same thing as we did horizontally now. In order to find the bottom of the puzzle, I want to use the dimensions from the puzzle itself. So from that line, I'm now going to come down 5 1/4. I do not want to bring my gap from the bottom up, because what's critical here is the drawing, not the gap. And we have just now identified where the puzzle is going and centered it on the drawing. So inside of those 4 lines is going to be the puzzle. So the next step then, now that we have those 4 lines here, 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 and here, is we're going to start drawing all these internal lines. And I like the puzzle drawing a lot because it allows us to practice construction lines. Those construction lines are those really light lines that disappear at arm's length away. It's kind of hard for me to draw good construction lines on a camera because you might not see them. So I am drawing my construction lines darker, but we're going to be practicing those. So this 0.375 dimension, which is also 3/8 of an inch, and this tip, which is short for typical, is referencing that this distance is 3/8, this distance is all 3/8 of an inch. And same thing as we see over here, 0.375 typical, this, that. All of those individual distances are 3/8 of an inch apart. So I need to draw a whole bunch of 3/8 inch lines. So I'm going to come from the left side and I'm going to make 5 marks at 3/8 of an inch at the top and at the bottom. And essentially I need to do this all the way around my paper on the left side and the right side, from the top down and from the bottom up. And because we have all these lines in the paper, this is where those good construction lines are going to come in handy, because you shouldn't have to erase them later. So I don't want to sit and spend another 5 minutes just doing all those lines, so I've actually prepared one that has all those lines on it. So when you get 5 lines from each direction on your page. You're ready to move on. There's no need to go more than 5 lines because all of them in the middle is not going to be used. We just care about what's inside of that space for those 5. So that's kind of like the big setup phase. We're now ready to start interpreting which lines we want to keep and which lines we don't want to keep. And remember, we should not have to erase a construction line. So yes, you drew lines all the way across inside of here, but you don't have to erase them because they should disappear. If you photocopy them or if you hold your paper at arm's length away, they're really light. If they're too dark, then yes, you're going to have to erase those lines. But the goal is not to erase. So I'm switching over to my felt tip black marker here for my object lines. You are still going to use a pencil. Please don't use a marker or a pen. I just want you to be able to better see what's happening here. So I'm going to line my ruler up, and I'm going to darken in both the left and the right side stuff, or top and bottom, as I go. So I know I'm keeping the top of both of those pods. I'm going to kind of jump around to stuff I know I'm going to keep right away. I'm lining up that ruler nice and neat. Trying to do a good job now because you don't want to erase object lines. And honestly, because I'm using a marker, I can't erase my object lines. So I know I'm keeping all these things, and by drawing the top and bottom or left and right all at once, I'm actually saving time. I don't have to reset the ruler twice, and the lines are parallel with each other. Well, those are the easy ones. I got a couple other easy ones here, I guess. The inside of those pods. I'm lifting my ruler each time I move it so I'm not smudging my lines as much as I can help it. So that's some of the easy stuff. All right, we can do some of the internals. Now I've got 3 lines when I draw this one. I know that I'm going to be keeping that middle chunk, but I also know that it's going to be kept there and there. So again, moving the ruler once to get the various lines that are going to be on the page if I can help it. And I'm going to come up here to the top side just like I did down there. Coming down one line. All right, go back to a couple easy things. I know that I can connect the dots between those there and there. I can come over to this side and connect the dots now that I have those. And you might be doing this in a different order. That's okay. You're probably pausing this video from time to time or speeding it up to figure out what it is you're supposed to draw when. You don't have to do it in the same order as me. Okay, now that I got those columns in, it's a little bit easier to find the top and bottom of each of the pods because they're stopping right where those are. So you're using object lines. A reminder that an object line is a normal weight line. It's darker than those construction lines on the page, but it's lighter than your border and title block. Starting to visibly come together, you're going to notice on the handout that all your vertical channels are clear. There's no interruptions on the vertical channels. The horizontals are the ones that go behind the verticals. So your verticals are always clear as you go through. That's a common mistake, darkening in the wrong line set. Okay, so I'm going to come in and start finishing up now the bottom set of pods. One more line. Remembering to break this line up, not to run it all the way across. And you'll see that the bottom is done. Just a couple lines left at the top. And there is the finished puzzle drawing, drawn for full scale, 1:1 or full. So when you're filling in your title block down here, this is going to read full scale or 1:1. Unlike your handout actually reads 3/4 scale because we shrunk the drawing to be able to fit all the dimensions on there, but you're drawing at full size on the actual handout. You can go ahead and fill in all of your title block information if you haven't already from when you drew the title block. This is your first official drawing, so SK-01 for the drawing number. And then make sure you're putting your name in location of wherever that is supposed to go. So if we see a finished title block from earlier, we can see full scale, put the date in, your name, SK-01 for the title block information. When you're done with this drawing, you can take a photo of it or scan it, upload it into Google Classroom, or turn it in. You'll be ready to go. Hopefully this tutorial was helpful in getting you through the puzzle drawing. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me and ask. Thank you.